Hello and welcome on DataGen, the podcast which enables to understand data strategies from best companies. I am Robin Conquet, and in each episode I invite a data expert and we deep dive into his challenges.
I did not talk about it and someone subscribed and I was like, okay, maybe I could start a weekly newsletter and people will maybe subscribe, and it started like this. To me, the hardest part of the data engineering job is problem solving, I would say. When you understand data, or when you are able to manipulate data, you can create visualization that helps a lot of people understand what's going on.
So today, I welcome Christophe Blefari, senior data engineer as a freelance and writer of the amazing newsletter Blef.fr. Hello, Christophe, how are you?
Hello, Robin. I'm doing good. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm so happy to be here today.
You write a newsletter called Blef.fr. Can you start by telling us more about it?
Yes. So my newsletter is a weekly newsletter where I do data article curation. So every week I read a lot of articles and I keep the 20 articles I like the most, and I try to put them in a nice format for everyone to read it. I think it's a good newsletter to save time on your weekly curation because I do the work for you. And yeah.
And so maybe, yes, I will just also explain why we're doing this podcast in English, because it's the first time on DataGen, so the podcast that we're doing an episode in English. And actually it's to be able to share it also to Christophe's audience on the newsletter. And since his community is in English, I accepted to test and to do this first episode in English.
And also it's a gift for the Advent of Data initiative that I decided to do in December. So the Advent of Data is an advent calendar where 24 authors, creators will write an article or create a data viz every day of December. And so this interview podcast will be just a side gift to the Advent of Data where people could listen what I have to say. But I don't know if they are interested, but people can listen.
Of course they are. So let's move forward. How did you end up launching this newsletter? What did you do before? So I'm sure many in the audience would like to know more about who is behind Blef.fr.
This is a bit random, to be honest. So before so I'm freelance right now. So for the last 2 years and a half, I've been doing freelancing because I left my previous company, which was Captain, a PHV company that was acquired by a German company, and they did layoffs and every tech people in France left, and so I also left. And so when I started the freelancing journey, I was okay, I want to do missions, but I also want to create content to help others learn and to help others understand what is data engineering. And so I was what can I do? At first, I did Twitch. So I was live streaming twice a week to talk about data. But Twitch is quite a niche, and it's super hard to get people on a live Twitch when you have no community. So on the Wednesday, at first, I was doing article review. I was reading articles and I was putting the articles I liked the most in a blog. Yeah, I did for 1 month, and after 1 month, someone subscribed to the blog, and I was okay, but I did not any ads or stuff. I did not talk about it, and someone subscribed, and I was okay, maybe I could start a weekly newsletter, and people will maybe subscribe, and it started like this, actually.
So in the beginning, you just wanted to live Twitch, and it's looking for articles that you would decrypt during the live, that you created some kind of a blog, but just for your internal use. And at some point, someone subscribed, so you ended up thinking okay,
yes.
Maybe the right way to go is to launch a newsletter. Yeah, that's really, really interesting. What was the biggest challenge you faced as a data engineer in your career? Or, what is maybe a phase of your career as a data engineer that you'd like to talk about today?
I think there are 2 answers to your question because you have 2 parts. But when we talk about the biggest challenges, I would say to me, the hardest part of the data engineering job is problem solving, I would say. Like when you do data engineering, the most often you have like pipelines that runs either daily or either in real time. And there is like kind of pressure on top of it. Like you put data in pipelines and people are relying on the data that goes inside. And when something breaks, you have pressure to fix it as soon as possible. And I would say I have a lot of different examples I could share, but this is super hard when you are like a junior to be in this position where company KPIs are played and you are like in charge of the pipelines that weekly or daily are like moving the data from the sources to the destinations. And so it happens also you do mistakes. So I've already like wrote on this, but it happens once where I deleted like the slash data folder in HDFS for one of my previous company. I did it. I don't know how I did it, but in the end I did it and I noticed it like 2 days after. It was such a mess. And like, you are like in a position where, okay, how can I fix stuff? Because I'm the only person in the company that can fix the stuff. To me, it's the biggest challenge as a data engineer is like having this responsibility of pipelines. Every day something can break, but if it breaks, you are the only one or your team is the only team in the company that can fix stuff. And sometimes the issues are like new. You don't have any help from anyone to find the solution.
And so what would be like an advice that you would give to any data engineer that is also facing this type of challenge? I mean, maybe not like exactly the same. So
I think there are like 3 points. So I will try to not lose my thoughts, but the first point is the company have to create like the good atmosphere, the good ecosystem for this to be addressed. Like you cannot hire like a junior data engineer that goes out of school to handle like the data pipelines that are like hyper critical like to the company. You have to have like one senior or someone with experience to mentor the data engineer, because I would say like being junior in the data engineering field is super hard. Now, this is the first point. Like the company has to put like a good atmosphere, like seniors for that. The second point is it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to have data pipelines that breaks. Like this is the normal process, to be honest. And so outside of the data team, like the businesses have to be nice. This is hard to say, but because for instance, like the marketing is depending on a data pipeline to send like a campaign on the Friday. Yeah. And the pipeline breaks and the marketing cannot send the campaigns. Yeah, it hurts, but marketing have to be nice to the data team. I cannot say more. Like you have to create this, I would say, goodwill ecosystem to accept and to errors and remove a bit of the pressure on the data engineers' shoulders. The last one is more like on the data engineering part. You have to put monitoring. You have to know what happens in your platform. A lot of data teams are like blind about their platform. And so you have to put something in place. You have to put mechanism, like either it's like human, either it's like automatic. You have to put something in place. So we talk about data observability, but I think it's more like traditional software monitoring on top of your like the pipelines and the software you write to be able to see what happens. When you have issues, take time to fix it at the root cause, not like doing minor fix that don't fix the root cause.
So now back to the content creation. What is your process to write the newsletter? And I'm thinking also, could you tell us a bit more about like what is your current lifestyle or balance between your life as a freelance and your life as a writer of the newsletter as you want?
Okay. So right now, I think the process around the newsletter is quite good. So I do a curation job. So I think this is something that is maybe the most interesting for the listeners. This is like my curation process. So at first I was doing the curation every day of the week. So like every day I was like reading articles, but the issue with this, it was too much context switching. Like I have some freelancing mission not on the side, it's my main activity to be honest, and it was too much context switching because I was going on LinkedIn, Twitter and like reading articles and I was thinking about something else than the missions and it was not good. So right now my process is the Friday is dedicated to the newsletter and I don't do any article reading except on Friday. So I scroll LinkedIn, Twitter, that are my main sources of content. But there I only like stuff that I think will be interesting for me and I read it on Friday. So like the whole week, I only like stuff I don't read and I dedicate the Friday for the newsletter reading, selection, and writing. So I start usually around 9, and I try to publish at 12, but it's never the case. I think on average, it takes me between 4 to 5 hours for the whole process to take place.
Okay. So, yeah, it's actually very efficient.
Yeah, right now. At first, I was more around 7 hours per newsletter, but right now it's more 5 hours.
Okay, so actually the process is quite interesting. So the first step is just to create some kind of a short list by just liking content on the different social media that you use, so Twitter and LinkedIn. And Friday morning, you just take a look at all the things that you liked, and then you start reading it.
Yeah.
And probably like at the same time, starting also to write a bit, and at some point you just finalize the writing of the newsletter, and it's okay.
Yeah. Also, I use, I didn't mention it, but I use Feedly, where I've put all the, Feedly is like a news or blog or like website aggregator, where I put all my sources inside, except LinkedIn, because I cannot put LinkedIn inside. And in Feedly, I have maybe more than 500 sources. And every Friday, I look on the past week stuff that have been produced. So it covers more than Twitter and LinkedIn, because it also covers all articles on Reddit that have been shared on some subreddits. It covers like Medium, Dev2, like many big blog platforms, and also like creators I like, or creators that are relevant, and some vendors blog also, because even I've started to stop sharing vendor stuff like as much as before. I still follow what they are posting on, because they follow the trends, and it's like it's a way for me to follow the trends and see what people want to not want, but what works.
What are your future projects?
I have stuff like around the content creation. I want to continue to work on the newsletter, because this is the place where I found my tone, also the rhythm, and I really like how the newsletter is going. But I want to do more stuff. I want to propose like more original article, like written by me, and not only the creation. I would like also like to do some interviews. I don't know if interviews is the right term, but I want to speak with vendors, because I see a lot of vendors, and I want to understand why they work on data, and also because you already do stuff with, I would say, pure players or companies, or and not really with the vendors. And I think there is also something to do like with vendors. And for next year, I've been contacted to write a book, and I think it will take me a lot of time next year. Yeah, I think it's going to be like the biggest project I will do next year in terms of content creation, aside from the newsletter and the growth of the newsletter.
What will be the book about?
The book will be about probably data integration.
So it's going to be a technical book.
I have to send the outline for today, but I have not yet started to write the outline of the book. But I think it will be a mix between like something technical and something more about the general concept you need to follow when you do data integration. Either it's in batch or in real time. My main goal for this is to try to write like a reference in this data integration space from a perspective of someone that is totally independent. I have my opinion on stuff, but I'm independent. That's something I would like to do. And it will be like a big book, more than 300 pages. So I think I will have time to cover a lot of stuff.
Okay, nice. I look forward to it. What data resources would you recommend, like content creators, blogs? So you said earlier that you share in your newsletter content from other creators that you like.
Yes. So I've thought about it like when coming to your place. So first, there are like 2 books I want to recommend to people that are starting in the data ecosystem, I would say, the data engineering ecosystem. The first one is the Fundamental of Data Engineering, which was written this year by 2 authors. I don't remember the name of the second one, but the first one is Joe Race. They also have a podcast on LinkedIn where they talk every Monday about data in a chill note. But their book is really good because they cover all the topics in data. in data engineering. I say in data, but in data engineering. The book is very good for any person that wants to entering the field, and also for people in the field that want to have a heads up on the concept. The second one that is, I would say, trendy. The book is not trendy, but it goes with a trend that is right now going on. It's the Data Warehouse Toolkit that has been written initially in 1996, but the third edition has been updated in 2013, something like this. Written by Ralph Kimball and Margie Ross. And this book is about how you can model the data and everything around data modeling, the star schema, fact table, dimensions table, and so on. And right now there is like a trend in the data space where with the analytics engineering job that is going on, we talk about a lot, where people have to go back to the modeling of the data. Because before, with the warehouse, the big warehouse and the unlimited power, we were doing one big table. So everything in one table, like they normalized. But people faced limitation with this. And also traditional BI engineers are like, why people are doing this? Why they don't do like dimensional modeling like we used to do it in the past? And so I would say this book is very important in terms of resource. If I add to this, I would say there are like other blogs I really like. The first one is the blog of Ben. Ben is marketing, is CMO at Mod, which is like an analytics tool. But he writes a lot about high-level content about data in a really, really good English with a lot of jokes. And I really like it. I also really like the blog of the tech giants. So when I say tech giants, it's mainly about data. It's mainly Uber, Airbnb, Lyft, LinkedIn. They have like really good blogs in terms of data. Also, not everyone is this company. Not everyone is Uber. Not everyone is LinkedIn. But it gives like good overview on stuff. And the last one I really like, which is like more general about data organization and data team. It's called Modern Data Team Hub. It has been developed by a VC called Amplify Partners. And it's a collection of links about how to build modern data team, I would say. Like it's around 30 links, something like this, with good article about how to build modern data team.
Okay, great. So I will put all the links into the description. What do you love about data?
So if I take a big step back, I have started to work in data in 2014. I was doing my internship, and the goal of my internship was to develop custom dashboarding solution for a consultancy firm to sell this custom dashboarding solution to clients of the consultancy firm. So the idea was to develop on top of Django something where you could define charts with some drop down in parameters and then query a data with like an intermediate layer. We can call it today, we call it like the metrics layer, but at this point it was just like an API where you query your database. And so that was the goal of my internship. This is what amazed me the most about data at this time. It was like when you understand data or when you are able to manipulate data, you can create visualization that helps a lot of people understand what's going on. And this empowering stuff about data, that I have skills to manipulate data, and with my skills, I can simplify, I can highlight stuff that will help others. Yeah, this is something I really like about data. So yeah, that's my main answer.
What made you progress most as a data engineer?
The main thing that helped me was reading Tech Giants blog. When I was at Captain, I had to modernize the data stack when I arrived. And I had my previous experience, but it was Hadoop based. I knew that I had to leave Hadoop at the symmetry, I would say. So I had to learn something new, and reading like Tech Giant blogs helped me a lot. This is like one point. I would say the second point is like to learn or progress, you have to experiment stuff. Like take time to experiment. And I know you have like head of data that are listening the podcast. So I would say give time to your team to experiment stuff during like the company hours. This is not good if people are doing this on the weekend or like on the evening.
And last, what is the best advice someone ever gave you?
KISS, the KISS methodology. So it means keep it simple, stupid. I think it's the best methodology when you do software. I see too many data engineering pipelines that are overcomplicated. We should always aim for simplicity, for stupidity, for boring stuff. Like data engineering is a boring discipline. We have to write boring pipeline because it's easier to debug a boring pipeline rather than a fancy one that is using fancy technologies that are working only because, I don't know, because on the JVM maybe, but no, but yeah, aim for simplicity.
Okay, great advice. All right, thank you, Christophe. We arrive at the end of the interview. It was great talking to you.
Thank you, Robin.
And see you around. Thank you for listening to this episode. Before the end, I have a small favor to ask you. If it's not done yet, could you add 5 stars and a review on Apple Podcast? This is what helps me make known the podcast and attract incredible guests. Thanks, and see you soon.